Look, buddy, it is June 6, 2022, time's about 1700 CDT. It's like 77 degrees Fahrenheit out. It was raining most of the day. Now it's sunny, so it's like 100% humidity. This is Geo-Rant time, Geo-Rant number 163. I'm going to cover two things here mainly. But before I get started, I want to say this is like take 10. I tried doing this in the morning, but there was too much traffic around at work, so I'll do it at lunch. I find a secluded place to park. I turn and I start talking. All of a sudden, this guy with this big truck, bang, bang, bang. I'm like, dude, you gotta park this here? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. They do take priority. It was raining, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll do this in my driveway at home. I get home and I start doing this, and my neighbor gets in his truck, starts moving it, goes somewhere, comes back, and you can see his license plate. At one point he gets out and he passes my truck and you can see his face, and I don't know if he wants to be on camera or not, so I'm just redoing this again. But now all the time you might hear meowing, and that's about it. But anyway, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to try to sit up a little more there, adjust that. All right, we're going to talk mostly about these two things. First, I'm going to cover something out of my control, and then basically I screwed up, guys. I'm a professional geologist. I should have known better. I mean, I know hindsight is 20/20, but I could have done a little better job. There's something I'll get into about it. I just made it. I'm not talking grammar. I don't care about grammatical errors. If you find them in there, let me know. I'll change them in the next edition. It's not the end of the world. This is a screw up. Okay, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. So anyway, these two books here. What is the difference in these two books? These are print on demand, so for one time. You see, this one's Nevada. I have a lot of these in Nevada and a lot of these from Texas, and it's the same problem. Cover looks good in gloss. I don't do matte covers except for the field books, but that's so the sun doesn't glare off them, and you can take pictures. But I always do the inside as matte. I don't do it as gloss. And this paper is kind of rough. And, here, the diagrams, you can't really tell. They look fine. But you look at the pictures of this book, and in some of the colors, like on my computer, these are definitely different colors. They're hard to discern here. These photos, they look subdued. Contrast is lower. They look washed out, if you will. And that's throughout the whole thing is like that in this. And you look at this book, this is a hardcover. You don't have to buy this in hardcover. You can pay $60 for it if you do. This one was printed in Moni, Illinois, as are most of my Upper Peninsula roadside books that are printed, but not everything is. And you look at this, the paper's smoother. You look at the diagrams in here. The colors, even on the diagrams, pop a lot better and look like a lot more like they were on my computer. So I know my computer is not the problem here. I mean, look at these diagrams. This is one of my favorite ones in this book. I mean, they pop. They stand out really well. And you look at some of the photos and get to the stuff under hand lens. And, the stuff looks really good. That's igneous, yes, because there's the phonolite. And, here's some metamorphic ones. And these just, I like this diagram too. I just wish it was bigger. It's in it's in one of my Midwest's two publications of MIGA. It's in there. Or MIGE, however you want to call it. I don't really care. It's an acronym. I'm impartial to it, but yeah, here. Okay, so you've seen these. These look really good. And this other book I'm going to mention briefly at the end, this one here, it's the same thing. Printed in Moni, the colors look good, they pop, all of that stuff. This is out of my control. I cannot control that, guys. That's Amazon and their contractors. So I'm pleading to you, don't hold that against me. It's not something I can control, okay? Not against something I could control. And I apologize immensely for this. There's a big error in here. There's 5 stops throughout the 9-ish or so roadside books I've done where I'm confused at the stops. I'm not familiar with it, whatever. I usually consult geologic maps or something like that to try to check me. But one got through. The other 4, I have double checked since this, and they're good. We're good on those. This one is not, and it is stop 17-3 in here. And as you can see, the GPS and stuff is right. It's not that kind of stuff. I've already done my notes, and I'm going to talk a little bit, hopefully sum this up pretty quickly. When I first did this site, in a lot of my books, I visit sites, I cannot always take samples. I made a rookie error here and I should have taken a sample. At the time, I wasn't thinking. I was trying to get some of these done because it looked like it was going to be bad weather and ended up being beautiful out. So I didn't take any samples, although this lighter rock here is definitely a tonalite. I could tell that hand lens in the field. I took the best notes I could, and I got back. I consulted the geologic map. Now, a lot of those Ontario geologic maps, the ones that are zoomed in, they are in black and white and hand drawn. So they'll have corresponding numbers to, or they'll have numbers to corresponding lithological units in the description, but they won't name any of the units. Some aren't named, but they don't name any of them because they're made more for mining purposes. And some numbers you can't read. And the location was hard because, you know, sometimes a pen draws a little thicker in some places. And I couldn't tell exactly if this was where it was. It was like really close to two things. So it's either a metaconglomerate or a combination of like a metaconglomerate and an igneous thing. So I emailed someone, a geologist I know in Ontario, and he's far smarter than I am. I'm not going to ding him or give you his name. He screwed up too, but this is my book, so it's my responsibility, not his. Okay, and at the time I just sent him a description because my phone, if I don't upload photos to the cloud every day, you know, I don't have internet access, it does it backwards for some reason. And these were older photos, so they weren't, you know, they weren't uploading. So I sent him a description. I said, you know, as best I could, he said, oh, it sounds like a pseudotachite to me, but it could not be something else. He's like, but I will go with that right now. And I'm starting here writing the book, and I get to it, I'm like, email him again. I sent him, I think it was this picture. And I think it was this one here. And he's like, and I'm like, okay, what do you still think? He's like, I still think it's a pseudotachite. I'm like, oh, but the map says metaconglomerate. We go back and forth. So I end up calling it a metapolymitic felsic intrusive clast conglomerate. Basically a mishmash between sedimentary and metamorphic, or between meta-igneous and metasedimentary. I was trying to cover all bases, but, you know, I should know better than to do that. It is a metaconglomerate. And how I found out is this outcrop itself is not, there's nothing on it anywhere other than that map drawing it. Now, this is the, here you have the location, Lake Superior. See the scale there. Here's Isle Royale, all right? Thunder Bay is over here. This stop is over here. There is a group of rocks over here in Minnesota and Western Ontario. I think it's called the Seine Group or something like that. It's spelled S-E-I-N-E. That is very well studied. And those rocks are a dead ringer for these. I mean, I thought they could have taken these at the outcrop in Wawa or outside of Wawa. Even though we're, you know, probably 500 kilometers apart, maybe less. So the reason why I found out is because the Ontario geologist emailed me recently and said, Steve, I messed up. I effed up. He goes, I know these are what's called Temiskaming type rocks. And he linked some of the sources that you will be seeing when I re-release this book. And I failed. So he failed too, but I failed harder because these rocks were unfamiliar to me. And I was looking in the wrong places. I kept Googling Wawa, metaconglomerate, Archean, stuff. They are Archean. Basically, we think is extensional environment. These shed down and then later became deformed and folded. That's why they're elongated and the foliations in between. He thought, like I did, that the tonalite was from further down. Something punched through, ripped it all up, and they became elongated and rounded through that. But you look at the matrix, and it's sand. It's sand. It's lithic sand. It's physically weathered from mafic rocks, but it is technically sedimentary in protolith. And I messed up. So yeah, before this starts getting too long, we're over 9 minutes here. I just want to say, I apologize for that. It will be corrected next year. I also want to add another really cool site to this. That's what's going to be done this year. So I need to do Sudbury and Espanola first. Sudbury area, not that. I'm going to talk briefly about this book too. But so those need to get done first. And plus, I haven't visited the stop. Well, I visited in the past, but I don't have good photos of it, of course. So we have to go back there. Now, this one will also be redone in 2023. Not because of any egregious errors like that, but because there's a stop I want to add that somebody pointed out, emailed me. So I want to add it, and I'm going to let, you know, I will give him credit in the book as well. And I just think it is a real cool, complex stop as well. So I'll be doing that. So basically, in a nutshell, we're on 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm going to discontinue that. I'm going to discontinue this one until I can update it, because I don't want it getting out. I'm admitting publicly the mistake here, so everyone knows it's there. But I don't want the error to get out there and people to get misinformation on it, because I was wrong. All right, so it happens. Rookie mistake. Anyway, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I hope you learned something.